Breaking down Arizona football, the Wildcats with a 65-41 win over Northern Arizona. I'm David Kelly, joined as always by Glenn Howell. U of A football class of 1985. Glenn at our new home here, News 4 Tucson, and we are definitely proud to bring our product of breaking down and previewing Wildcats games every week here to KVOA in Tucson. And let's get into this game, Glenn. I think if it had ended at halftime, everybody would have been real happy about what happened at Arizona Stadium on Saturday night. 51-10, a record for points scored in the first half. The offense was electric under two different quarterbacks, but things got away from the Wildcats defensively, and that's still going to be the major concern as we go into Texas Tech on Saturday.
Well, Dave, you know, I was excited about what happened with our offense. We had seven possessions and 7 scores. Defense played pretty good the first half, but when the second and third team guys get in, we got to continue the assault. We have to be able to take care of business, and we just didn't do that.
And that just really, Glenn, goes to the depth of this team right now, and really the depth of it over maybe the last few years. Once you get past maybe those first, I would say even 17 to 20 guys defensively, it is a drop-off for this defense. We've seen some of those guys that have flashed at times, guys like Lee Anderson, who occasionally you said, man, I'd like to see him kind of do that consistently, but that's the thing, and it's been Kevin Sumlin's mantra from the beginning. Consistent. You've got to be consistent, play in and play out, and defensively they just aren't getting enough guys to do that.
And Dave, a lot of things that I saw was assignment and alignment. That's what it was. I thought it was assignment and alignment. They weren't aligned right, and even Kevin Sumlin said that in his post-game interview, is that we have to get guys lined up in the right positions to make plays. And we have to, that means that in practice, when you're the second and third guy that's in there in practice, you got to pay attention where you're supposed to be.
And Christian Young just has to get out of his own way. I mean, he is a good football player, but we can't have those types of antics. And, you know, I'm even, if he wanted to do that against an Oregon or USC, I might not mind as much. But why are we showboating against Northern Arizona?
That just does not make any sense to me, Dave. I really was disappointed as a former Wildcat. You can't do that against NAU. Like you said, it's got to be something that's worthwhile, but it was not worthwhile against NAU to do that.
2 ejections on the defensive side of the ball. Switching back, though, over to the offense, and I want to talk a little bit about Grant Gunnell because I was extremely impressed with the true freshman, Glenn. Not only was he able to make quick reads and quick decisions, but he was throwing effective slant routes as a true freshman in his first game. That's the thing that stood out to me about Grant Gunnell.
Well, one thing I was impressed with, Dave, is that he was, like we were talking about assignment and alignment, he was moving guys around, telling them where they need to be, and then snapping the ball, and then executing on the play. That tells me that this kid is ready to play. He might play only 4 games, and then we have him for 4 years straight, and that will be great for us.
And just the weapons. I think there's weapons here offensively.
Yes.
I mean, you talk about these running backs. I mean, obviously Gary Brightwell had an excellent ball game, showed off his speed that we had kind of heard about, but really haven't had a chance to necessarily see him in the open field on the impressive touchdown run of 94 yards. And Nathan Tilford continues. They continue to feed him just a little bit more each week. And now you've got some of these wide receivers. Drew Dixon makes a little bit of a breakout game, made a couple of really difficult catches there. And that was really nice to see from the local kid.
I really would like to see what Drew did this game. He really showed that, you know what, I can bounce back from that previous game, that first game, and it was all mental. Everything is mostly in these guys' head. They have the ability to play well. They have the talent, and they just got to be able to mentally be ready to play.
Thomas Reed had the big touchdown. That's another name, a guy that we really haven't heard from before that was able to step up and make big plays. Tavion Cunningham, again, 2 touchdowns. He, I think, is going to be a real primetime player as this season goes along. So good to see those guys getting a chance to really be a part of this offense as we move forward. But as we mentioned, it always comes back to the running game, and the running game was effective with all of the guys that they used on Saturday night.
And the running game has to be effective. That's our bread and butter. If we don't get our running game going, we don't have an offense. Our offense, we should be run first, then we set up the pass. And then if we run and we're continuously run with our tailbacks, then that opens up for Khalil also. So we need to be able to concentrate on that, and I'm glad the big uglies up front got to have some fun.
And they were doing
they
had
really
some room to move.
Yeah.
You know, they actually were able to get out on the outside. I like the way they were pulling the guard and the tackle and trying to create some runs off the edge and getting to the second level, which they really did not get a chance to really do in that game against Hawaii. Also nice, obviously, with 11 players for Northern Arizona coming in here from this local area prep-wise, to see some of those kids make a difference in this game. Terrell Hayward had a touchdown catch late out of Cienega. Luis Aguiar, the kicker out of Nogales, looked good. Harrison B. Miller and Taylor Powell on that defense. And you've got now two coaches that have a history with Chris Ball and Kevin Sumlin. I think they really need to mature this relationship. And I've said this before, Glenn, because this is not a state, when you talk about spring football, this is not a state where where Arizona's ever going to draw 60, 70,000 for a spring game. I would love to see these three colleges get together and create a spring event where they all are on the field together, kind of like what we see on those scrimmages in the high school where you have three teams. I wish the three colleges would get together and make that an event. Move it 1 year to Tucson, have it 1 year in Tempe, have it another year in Flagstaff, and really create this Arizona football mentality here within the state.
Yeah, I don't know if that is possible because of NCAA rules, because we're competing against each other. I don't know. We have to look that up. I'm not sure about that, but if we could do that, that'd be great.
Yeah, I think
that would be great.
I think it really would.
I think it's difficult for them to do it because they're playing against another opponent.
Well, we'll see. We like to dream here.
Yeah. So because look, you think about the other teams, man. Washington would do with Washington State.
Well, and maybe not necessarily. Maybe not necessarily U of A directly against ASU, but the other two, U of A. Scrimmaging part against NAU, and then maybe NAU running teams against ASU, and not maybe necessarily U of A versus ASU. Something along those lines, because obviously you wouldn't want to be. And I think, I still would like the idea, because I think it'd be great for football within the state if you if you created that. I think it would. I think if you were in an environment where you had U of A and ASU scrimmaging, it would really make this rivalry even more fun. And you could really, that would be something that would draw people to the stadium if they could come and see the two teams compete in a practice during the spring, much like also just what we see in the NFL, where we're seeing so many teams now that are competing over a couple of days worth of practice before the actual preseason games start. All right, U of A and Texas Tech coming up on Saturday, and we'll be back to have that preview for you coming up prior to game time.